Hey kawan, welcome to EDCReady. Today we are doing a product review of this guy. This is the Fursan blades Seluang. So a couple things I want to talk about here. This is going to be a full review. It's not just going to be a full review of the blade, but I'm also going to talk about the nature of this blade. So just so you know, this is completely handmade by a pair of guys from this company called Fursan Blades. So as a result, there are a lot of things that you can do with the order of this knife that you can't do with other production knives out there. Because it is made by hand, you can kind of have them like custom make different pieces or like adjust different bits here and there, or to your liking, so you can always get back to them. And this company right here is in Malaysia, so they're a pair of local guys here in my country. So if you're a Malaysian and you're looking for a really good budget fixed blade, and this is going to be the blade for you. Firstly, let's get into the dimensions. Let's start with the measurement or kydex sheath right here. Getting to the measurements right here, we have a blade length of right around 3.4, 3.5 inches like that, but with a sharpened blade length of right around 3.5, 3.15 inches, something like that. We have a handle length of just under 4 inches, with a blade stock thickness of 0.12, 0.13, right around there. And then we have a handle thickness, and then we have a handle thickness of, zeroize this, a handle thickness of, let's switch to inches, 0.68 inches. Sorry about that, didn't expect that to happen. Anyway, let's get into the weight of the knife. We have here my Thai weighing scale right here. Now it does measure in grams, so you will need to convert it a little bit later. The knife alone comes in at 99 grams. And then if you include the kydex sheath that's included here, we come in at 126 grams. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the review of this knife. Well, let's start with this kydex sheath first. It's just a basic kydex sheath that comes with it. In this case, I believe this is like a tan one. I don't know, nothing to complain about. It's just a kydex sheath. It has a little thumb notch here that you can use to pop it open. Now, one thing I would suggest is, this is fine if you're carrying it in a bag, which is how I've been carrying it for the last few days. Personally, I like scout carry. So scout carry, you kind of stick it to your belt like that. Okay, so it kind of rides horizontal to your belt. That is a separate purchase. You're gonna have to talk to Fursan Blades when you make the purchase, and then you can get that little belt loop here, or that belt buckle. He does other kinds of belt buckles out there. He has like a little leather one where you have a leather wrap around right here, so you can just stick your belt into the leather as well. Or you have the plastic ones and so on and so forth. So again, being a handmade knife, you can have these kind of liberties when you talk to him. You can kind of justify, or you can kind of like modify your orders as you see fit. Getting to the blade here, we have here a D2 steel blade. Okay, D2 steel is a pretty good budget steel, and in terms of budget steel, it's pretty tough, which makes it good for fixed blade. It holds its retention relatively well. Especially among the budget end of the steels here. My only complaint about D2, and this is just my personal preference for steel, is that it is not as stain resistant as other steels like VG10 440C. It's not as stainless as those steels. And just living in Malaysia, the benefits of having a stainless steel kind of has a little bit more weightage to me compared to edge retention. So I don't know, maybe for a future run, I would like to see maybe an N690, maybe a 440C on this steel, maybe a VG10 or whatever that is a little bit more stainless than D2. But D2 is still good for like outdoorsy kind of use, especially for a fixed blade that lives in a kydex sheath. I'm not keeping this in my pocket. So the reason why I want a more stain resistant steel is that if it's in my pocket, all my sweat can kind of get up onto the blade and cause it to rust. Fortunately, in my bag, that's less of an issue. So in this case, I'm more okay with D2 steel here than with, let's say, regular pocket knives. And even then, I do still have pocket knives in D2 steel. Blade shape here is very nice. You have a full flat ground blade, which means that this will slice very, very nicely. Another thing that they did right in front of me is that they did the sharpening right in front of me. I guess that's kind of one of the cool things about like working with a local knife maker. You can kind of go to a shop, check out the knives before he finishes it. You know, you can go and see how he sharpens it. You can adjust the grind, which by the way, this has a very strong tip right there. So this strong tip just makes it a lot more durable when you need to penetrate something, or you know, in a rare situation you need to penetrate this into something and then you need to maybe pry it apart or something like that. This kind of blade shape is going to be very great for that. As you can see, a very strong tip. The blade, the edge shape here, the edge geometry is also really good. You have a good amount of flat, and then you have some nice belly and nice strong tip, as I already mentioned. The flat also great for cutting. Another thing I like about this is that the blade sits very low to the hand, so you can actually get down very close to the complete edge of the blade when you are cutting it. A couple of things here. Okay, so it does have a sharpening trial, which makes it very good for you to self sharpen, or you can just like pass it back to the guy if you're around, and then he can help sharpen it for you. There is a little bit of a ski jump at the end here, just a tiny amount. It's just not as perfectly straight as someone with OCD might like it to be, but to be honest, it's such a small amount that it doesn't really make a difference. But I just thought that I should let you guys know. You have some jimping up here. Jimping here is nice. It has nice traction. Relatively basic jimping. It is not particularly sharp, okay, on the edges here, so it's not going to cut you, but it's still going to give you some nice traction. It is not, however, angled. Some more expensive knives, like Spyderco, whatever, sometimes the jimping can be angled backwards to give you more traction in one direction and less in another direction. This is quite a neutral jimping, so it doesn't matter which direction you go, you're going to get a good amount of traction in each direction. Another thing I like about this knife is that it has a full blade tang. So it's a full tang knife, so the blade goes from the start here, from the tip, and it goes all the way to the back. That gives it this feeling that it's going to be extremely rigid, and then these scales right here are pinned on top, so it's extremely comfortable, and then it just gives it this very strong feeling in hand. A lot of people always talk about what's the strongest lock for a pocket knife, but if you really want the absolute strongest lock for a pocket knife, to which point other like liner locks or frame locks are going to fail on you, you might as well just get a fixed blade, which is what this fixed blade is. For. There's no pivot, so I'm not going to talk about action here. As you can see, it doesn't fold. A couple things I gotta talk about with this blade here is that the edges here, the corners here are a little bit sharp. Okay, the top here is fine. It's not that sharp. It is a little bit on the sharp, but it's not too bad. I think it's meant for fire striking, which is fine. But the corners here, they are just a little bit too sharp for my taste. Now I just wish that he would just round out these corners a little bit right here, make it a little bit more comfortable in hand, just in case you have your finger pressed up against here. That can be quite uncomfortable. Another place that I hope that he could just soften up the edges a little bit is that these corners right here of the micarta also a little bit sharp. So again, if you could just round out here, and here, then it's going to be great. Speaking of the micarta, this is the handles. You can pretty much request whatever color that he does it in a lot of colors. So when you look at what's on display, you can see in green, blue, black. In this case, it is your brown. And you can even ask him like, hey, can you help me create something that's special for me? So one thing I would like to do is I would like to give him some of my old jeans and see if he can make a knife handle out of that for my future knife. Fit and finish is pretty good. There's no gaps that I can see all the way around here, and then the transition between the micarta and then the steel is also very smooth. I mean, you can feel the difference in material, but you can't really feel a gap in any direction. There is only one small area with a little bit of gap, which is up in this corner right here, but that's just me nitpicking. It doesn't affect the function of the knife whatsoever. Knife is still going to function just perfectly fine with it. You have some nice rounding on the micarta here, so it's extremely comfortable in hand, which is what you want for a fixed blade. You are going to be ideally using this for a lot of hard cutting tools, so you're going to want that nice rounded smooth edges that comes along with it. Last but not least, I want to talk about the price. The price here is about 320 ringgit. If I'm wrong, Fursan Blades guys, just comment down below. The price here is about 320 ringgit, which is great. It's a great budget steel. It's a great budget knife, because if you're gonna get a knife like an SC or whatever, it's gonna come around there, or maybe even slightly more expensive. So this kind of price to me is really good, especially considering the really good fit and finish, considering the good blade steel, the good blade shape, the ergonomics of this knife. The balance is very good. Okay. It's very good for me, which is going to be around about here. Personally, for me, I like the balance to be right around where my index finger is, or slightly behind, because that is like the center of gravity of my hands right here. So guys, so if you guys want to check out this knife, I highly recommend it. I don't have a fixed blade in my life, mainly because I've never had the need for a fixed blade other than in the kitchen in my life. But I've always told myself, after seeing a Fursan blades, you know, the Sikang, the Seluang, I always felt like if I'm gonna ever get a fixed blade, it's gonna be this guy. And finally, when now they have it in stock, and then they sent one to me on loan, it kind of confirms my belief that this is actually a really good fixed blade. So if you are a local guy, if you live in Malaysia, I think that you guys should support Fursan blades and then check out their fixed blades. And if you're watching this from overseas, why don't you guys just get in touch with them and see how they can help you. Okay guys, that's it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out my description box down below. You can find out how you can support the channel through Patreons, through the links that you have down below. Okay guys, thanks and stay ready.